Twitch on my phone. Make sure that I got the volume turned down so I don't play my own ad. And I should probably Slack everyone that we are live. The message has been sent. And let's see if I am on. Oh, look at that, an ad for Xbox. Wait for that to connect. Hey everyone, I can't quite see you yet. Oh, yep, I see someone. Hi. Excellent. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I had an issue where my microphone wasn't showing up, and the microphone is a pretty important piece, apparently. All right. Let me pull up my screen here. Welcome to week 3. So like I said in the chat room earlier today, we're going to try to cover a couple different topics, and I want tonight to be a lot more interactive. My first question for you all, can you hear me pretty well? Is my microphone actually working the way I want it to? All right, I'm getting feedback that it sounds pretty good. Good, we can continue. I'm going to try to pay more attention tonight. Sometimes if I'm referring to something on the screen, I might not have the screen up. So if I'm referring to something and you either can't see me or can't see the screen, just say something in the chat room and I will check in periodically. Thank you for joining tonight. And I'm sorry if you're watching this by recording and you had voted for Wednesday. When I last checked, the polling showed that both Tuesday and Wednesday were popular. But we're going to try Tuesday this week and maybe we'll do Wednesday next week. So what I wanted to talk about today was Chapter 6, which is about linking, and Chapter 7, which is about inserting images. There's actually a lot more to Chapter 6, I think, that requires practice than Chapter 7. You're kind of going to make a blend of these in your work this week. I'm asking you to complete the Chapter 6 linking exercises, and I think I had seen a few questions about that earlier today. And in Chapter 7, you're going to be inserting images onto a couple different pages. For both of these chapters, you're going to want to download the sample files that I've provided and open them up and edit them as the directions tell you to. And this week, the author is really good about giving you an example and then asking you to do the same in the files. So I've put together some visual aids about links related to Chapter 6 that we can go through. I don't have any visual aids about Chapter 7, but one of your assignments this week is actually to create your own HTML photo gallery, which is pretty much exactly what you do in Chapter 7. So if there are questions about that, I'd rather spend our time talking about Unsplash, and maybe actually I can walk through making a sample photo gallery with just one image myself and walk you through how to use Atom to build that. And then the other thing that I want to talk about tonight is the HTML resume project. I'm asking you to create a resume, which requires some content that you'll have to create. But then when you have the content, I'm asking you to apply some HTML tags to it. And some of them are really easy that you're going to be inserting just like any other web page. And then you have to insert these other tags. So there's a total of 13 required. 5 of them you get just by typing HTML and hitting tab in Atom. And then the others you have to add yourself. And then there's a grab bag of 5 different types of tags I'd want you to demonstrate. This is kind of review from the last couple weeks, all combined together. And then at the very bottom here, I have at least 5 special characters that I want you to insert. And I don't think there had really been much homework related to these special characters, but I made sure to list pages 105 to 108 where the textbook talks about special characters. What's funny about HTML is if you were like a math teacher and you wanted to insert a less than sign or a greater than sign, it's actually a little bit harder than you might think because the less than and greater than sign are reserved for making tags. So if you flip to page 105 and through 108 in your textbook, it'll talk about special sequences of characters that you can write to make some special characters that you don't find on the keyboard, but you do find online a lot, including the less than and greater than sign. And then there's one other requirement that you actually provide an example of an attribute. And the easiest way to use an attribute is on the anchor tag, which is a very good topic because we're talking about links in Chapter 6. So that's everything that I have to talk about. Let me flip over to my slides that I have available to us. You'll see just by breezing through here that I put together some sample examples of links, and then I took some screenshots that go with our exercises from the textbook that will give us a jumping off point to talk about if you wanted to link to a certain page from a page, how you would do that. So I'm going to stop talking for just a minute. What would you all like to talk about? Is there anyone who has questions about Chapter 6 and links? I'm not getting any replies in the chat room. This needs to be more interactive. Hope the chat room is actually working. All right, well, I'm still waiting for questions in the chat room. I am going to jump ahead just a little bit into Chapter 6 here. There are just a couple key concepts that I should mention. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. To create a link, you use the A tag. So there's the opening A tag and the closing A tag. The text that you want to be clickable. Everything that you see on the web that has that underline underneath it or is blue, or when you move your mouse over it turns into the hand. Let me see if I can make the hand. It looks something like this. If you want that to be the clickable part, that's what goes in between the opening and the closing tag, A tags. In order for you to make that link actionable and actually go anywhere, you have to put that inside of this href attribute. And an attribute, like we talked a little bit last week, is the name of the attribute. So in this case, it's href, which I still don't know if that's a hyperlink reference or what that stands for. But then you set that equal to a certain value. Now, whatever you want that value to be, it is expected that you will try to put that in these double quotation marks. That's the shift key and then the quote character on your keyboard. And what goes inside of the href actually varies a little bit. There's two different ways to list that URL. I think the easiest way is with an absolute URL, and this goes all the way back to week 1, where in your browser, if you know what page you want to link to, you can copy the URL, paste that full URL, including the protocol. The HTTPS is significant. If I had just typed in google.com, I think I can do that live here. If this is what my link said, that link to Google would actually be broken. I'd go to click on Google and I'd probably get some sort of page not found because it would be whatever website I'm currently on, like kishba.com/google.com. That's not a web page. So the full URL, the absolute URL, is required if you're trying to link to an external web page. And so the first exercise in Chapter 6 has you making a link to an external web page, and it's important that you have that full URL in there inside of that property. If you're linking to one of your own web pages on your own site, then you can provide a relative path. And oftentimes, if the page that you're linking to is inside of the same folder, you often don't even have to provide a subfolder name. For a lot of the examples in Chapter 6, though, it gets a bit more complicated than that because the author has created a lot of folders. So sometimes you will find that you have to actually list folder names, and sometimes you even have to go up a directory to go up a level and then go into a folder. So there's some really fun challenges inside of that chapter this week for creating hyperlinks. So I'm going to take a look inside of the chat room real quick. Someone asks, are we just creating links for what the sections tells us or for everything? Well, I took some screenshots of what is being asked. So I think it varies from exercise to exercise. It's usually really spelled out though. So for 6.1, they're showing you how to make a link to the Food Network. That's already in the starter file. But what you're asked to do is turn this word Epicurious into its own link. So you'd have to add the anchor tags and most importantly, put the URL in there. And there's actually a trick question, not really a trick question, but this is the tricky part. If you just put www.epicurious.com and save that file, you'll see that the link doesn't actually work when you try to open it up. So that was exercise 1. Exercise 2, you're opening up the about.html and then go down to this paragraph and add the anchor tag inside between the paragraphs. So I guess to answer your question, yes, you're doing exactly what they tell you. I do think that they leave maybe a few that you could do for practice. I'm not expecting you to do anything other than what's listed on each of the exercises. What was confusing to me, and I almost missed this my first time through, is there are 8 of them, and I even listed the page number on Moodle. 8 is like on the left-hand side of a piece of paper, and as I was flipping through, I couldn't find it. So make sure that you don't miss that one as well. Someone else in the chat room is saying that they had more issues with the Chapter 7 exercises than the Chapter 6. Oh, I'm surprised to hear that. Maybe we'll have to take a look at some of those. I don't have any visual aids for those, but if there are enough questions, maybe I can do a quick video later on this week about Chapter 7. There's one other concept that I should mention before we skip past Chapter 6. There's a way to link to a specific section on a page, and those are called fragments, according to our author. And the way these fragments work is with the introduction of another attribute. This is actually an attribute that we're going to use a lot starting, I think, as early as next week when we start using CSS. But this H2 here, I'm adding this ID, which is an identifier. It is unique on the page. I'm calling this the history fragment. And what that means is any other place that I want to provide a link, I can cause the browser to jump down or jump up or jump over right to this history of the web H2. Notice how my hyperlink, I don't have to say anything about an H2. All I have to reference it with is this hashtag or this pound sign and say # history. And then this secret history of the web link becomes a blue clickable link. And when you click it, it will tell the browser to look for this H2 with an ID of history. And these are pretty common in several places on the Mid-Michigan College website. One that I wanted to point out becomes visible on our college website when you go to the mobile phone size. If you scroll down to the very bottom of the page, we added this back to the top link. And when you click it and you look up in the URL, you'll see that it added the # top to the end of the URL. So there's actually an ID for something at the very top of the page, and it doesn't matter how far down I am on the page. If I click that link, it takes me up to the top. Now what's cool about fragments is you can use them to jump between sections of a page, yes. You can also use that to jump to a specific part of a page on someone else's page. So my favorite example of this is actually on something like GitHub or any other chat room out there. I know when I'm trying to share a link to something like Stack Overflow or to a comment on a thread, each of those platforms will often give you a share URL. And if you look closely, some of those will actually have that # at the very end of it that signifies which post on the page is going to jump you down to. I don't have an example of that ready, so I probably shouldn't go searching around on Stack Overflow in real time. But trust me that's an awesome feature for jumping someone right to a specific part of the page. So then for the rest of Chapter 6, you're going to be asked to open up various pages like the salmon page potentially, and then adding a link to go to a page in the same folder, like to this tapenade page that's underneath the recipes. Or maybe you want to take add a link from salmon to go all the way back to the index page. And when you want to go up a level, there's actually a very special character that lets you do that. So if you wanted to link from index to salmon, you'd actually have to say recipes/salmon.html. The reverse is a little bit more difficult. If you're on the salmon page and you want to link to the index page, you have to say ... that means go up a level, /index.html. And that's how you connect those together. And this might actually lead you into chapter 7 a little bit if you're having problems with the images. Not only is the anchor tag really sensitive with URLs, but the image tag is as well. So if you're trying to reference images that are underneath a folder, you might have to if you're in the about.html file and you want to put the Jen's Kitchen logo on your page, you actually need to reference images/jenskitchen.gif when you're typing code into about.html. And it gets even more crazy if you're way down nested deep in linguini.html. You probably have to use a couple of those characters. So you'd have to type something like ... that gets you up to this level, ... that gets you up to this level, and then images/jenskitchen.html. So let me code up an example. I'm going to keep this up over here on my left. Let's go to our handy dandy Atom. Create a little fragment over here. Let's say, just for example, I'm going to write a little HTML comment that we are in linguini.html. And there's an image tag. What image do I want to use? Well, I pass it the source attribute that you learn about in chapter 7. And what goes in here is the URL to the image that you want to include. The other attribute that we've learned is required for all images this week is the alt attribute. This is generally a description of the image. For logos, it's usually something appropriate to say Jen's Kitchen logo. You know what? I don't think I have HTML mode on here. That's a little less than desirable. So there we go. Now we're back in HTML mode. There are other properties that you can add, like width and height, that you're going to probably need to use in your photo gallery when you're building a gallery of some bigger images that you want to resize. You'll need to put in different values in the height and width areas. But jumping back to the source, remember we're in linguini.html. That's way down here. So you actually need to go up several levels. So if I do a ... that would get me up into this recipes level folder here. I actually need to go up another level so that now I'm at this top level, which is kind of where I want to go. I'm going to go into the images folder and I'm going to type Jen's Kitchen .gif. Let's hope I typed that correctly. So that would be how I add an image from the linguini.html file that's located all the way up a lot higher in images.html. And it's actually pretty common to make the logo be a hyperlink back to the front page. So let's pretend to do that. I'm going to add my closing tag, maybe indent this a little bit. And if I wanted this to be a link back up to index.html, it would actually mimic a lot of this. ... gets me up to this level. ... gets me all the way up to the top level, and then I could type index.html. So here's a crazy example of including an image from linguini.html and linking to the front page from that file. So I don't see any other questions about chapter 6 in the chat room. Does this demonstration help a little bit? I know it was pretty quick. I think what I'll do is add a hypothetical example here. Let me duplicate this, call this hypothetical example of link from nested folder. Then I've got this neat little, this neat trick that I have inside of Visual Studio. I can copy with the syntax highlighting, paste it in. There's my little example. You know what? I should probably have a little. Either should provide a height and width or I should get rid of it. We'll get rid of it. That should be sufficient. There's a question. Are we supposed to do them in Atom? You can write your code in whatever editor you want. I'm telling you that Atom is probably going to save you the most time. If I was typing this in Atom, there were a lot of tricks that I could have used. Like let me rebuild this with the power of Atom. Instead of typing out all the code, I could have just typed A. Notice how I can hit a tab and it moves my cursor over. I could have typed in the path that I wanted. I could have tabbed once more to get in between the A tags. I could have added a new line, and then I can actually type image in here and it auto completes. So then I could have typed in the path, GIF. Oops, I could have probably tabbed over here to put the text in here. And that's probably a little bit quicker than when I typed everything out manually. So I do think that Atom is valuable for you to practice with. And if you're having problems getting Atom to work on your computer, Visual Studio Code is working for everyone else. I think there's 1 or 2 people that are using it. Were there any questions about the exercises specifically in Chapter 6? I really think that this diagram, especially the one that is on the first page of the assignments, I don't remember, it's this figure 6.4, whatever page this is on, I would flip back to this after you read each assignment and then maybe like put your if you have the digital book or if you're on the screen, put your cursor right on wherever you're starting and then kind of trace your way up to try to figure out if you have to go up a level or go down a level, and that will help determine if you need this crazy ... character. This actually comes from the Linux world. That actually just means go up a directory. You know, it might even come from DOS. There's probably some people that know better than me in the chat room. That ... just means go up a directory from where I'm currently at. And how do you know where you're currently at? Well, it's wherever that file is. So in this case, we were pretending to be linguini.html. Okay. That is Chapter 6. That went really fast, guys. So I didn't want to talk about anything in Chapter 7 tonight. I know that there was a question in the chat room. If you could maybe come up in the Slack chat room, send me a message about what exactly your question is. If it's with a particular lesson or if it's with a particular file, I can maybe come up with a video related to that to share later in the week. What I would like to talk about now is the resume project. Resumes require content, and so what I wanted to do with everyone that's in the chat room, whether you're in Slack or in Twitch, maybe reply in the chat room with something that you would expect to see on a resume. And I'm going to fill in our slides as I read the results. Make a little bulleted list. Experience. I love when resumes start with an experience. We're going to call that like a section. Education. Yeah, everyone puts their education. You can put mid on your resume right now. You're taking classes. That's your education. Let's say that's a section. Skills. Yeah, you want to list your skills, right? Maybe that's also a section. Ooh, certifications. Good one. You know what? I'm getting rid of these word sections. I think you kind of understand what I'm getting at here. So you might list your experience, your education, your skills, your certifications. I'm going to throw out a really easy one. You might want to find someone's name. Oh, you start typing my name. You might want to find someone's name in a resume. What else might you want to find? I think I have received a resume without a name on it once. It got separated from the rest of the material, and I felt so bad. I didn't know who it was. Yeah, how to reach the person. Contact info. Contact info. Accomplishments. Phone or contact info. Yep. Yeah, so contact info might come in a couple forms. Phone. You could also have email. I've seen people put mailing addresses on there. References. I'm glad someone got this. References. Yes, that's especially important. And those references, you might need to also include the same contact information. So I'm going to add a question mark on there. So let's pick this apart a little bit. The next slide asks us to brainstorm what tags would be appropriate for this content. I'm going to do it right on the same slide here. When I listed that experience and education and skills were sections, what else could you say that those are? So I already gave away that you might be able to use like the section tag, but I frankly see other ways of listing, hint, hint, some of this information. What types of tags could you use to represent this content? Headings, yeah. So imagine, if you will, what if you had sections that included headings right on the page, right? So maybe you have experience and you want that to be a second level heading. And then education is another section of your resume, so that's a second level heading. Skills and certifications could totally be there if you have that you want to list. Someone pointed out in the chat room that the name would be a perfect H1, and I agree. That's going to be the most important information on your resume. It's probably the title. If you were using a template in Word, it's going to be the big thing at the top, so it should definitely be an H1 on your page. And I think that this will form a nice outline. If you think about what our textbook author said about how the headings imply a document outline, I think it kind of makes sense that if you were making an indented list of this, that you would have something like, you'd have the top level be your name, and then underneath that you'd say experience, and then underneath that would be education, and so on and so forth. It'd be like a nice little outline. And a screen reader would read that aloud when they visit your page, which is really cool. What other tags are you thinking of when you see this content? Think back to last week's HTML tag database. What tags did you contribute that you can see working into this content? Oh, someone mentioned paragraphs. Yeah, you could have written paragraphs in here, especially if someone had written like had a purpose or a mission statement. That might be something that has more than a couple sentences, and then I think that would be very appropriate to use paragraph tags, but also maybe an H2 to set off the purpose and mission label above it. Yeah, someone hit the trifecta here. The OL, the LI, the UL, all the good lists. In fact, I'm going to suggest a few in here. If you were going to have a skills list, I imagine that would just be a bulleted list. You're probably not going to list your number one skill. I think that would be a perfect UL. And a UL, of course, is going to have LIs underneath it. So I'm seeing some good tags there. Where do you think an ordered list might make sense? Is there a place? I'm frankly not, it's not coming to mind at least where I would use a list that starts with a 1, 2, or 3. So maybe an ordered list isn't very helpful, but definitely the UL. And there's another type of list that I think works really well on a resume. Can anyone guess where I would list? Well, sorry, what other type of list I'm thinking of? Yep, someone just said it in the chat room. The DD and the DT. I'm going to put those down here. I think that would make great sense for references. Because when you think about like a term and definition, what comes to mind for me at least, let me make sure I'm in HTML mode. Let's make our definition list here. I probably could have just typed DL. Yeah, there we go. DL is, the term, the DT, is usually like the definition, or the term, is the term or the small heading. So you could actually make a list of references where Brandon Kish is one of your references, and then in the DD, maybe you actually have their contact information. So maybe that's bkish@midmich.edu, and then a line break, and then whatever, their phone numbers. I should probably make this a 555 number instead, since this is going out on the internet. Or maybe this is an unordered list inside of the DD. You can mix and match all of these tags. So that might be my first reference. My second reference might be John Doe. I don't know who jdoe@midmich.edu is, so we're just going to leave that blank just for that example. And this type of format, this definition list format, is actually really applicable to a couple other areas. So I should probably list the DL list here. I think you could use that in other places like experience or education. And frankly, someone mentioned using unordered list underneath experience and education, and I think that's appropriate too. There's a bunch of different ways that you can list information or divide it with HTML tags. Let's see, we had some ULs in here. There's one other tag that I think would be very important for you to include in your contacts or your references. And in fact, let me put my H2 up here. So references. And maybe I'd want to put a little disclaimer. Please let me know before you reach out to my references, maybe. I don't know if you'd want to put a disclaimer like that in your resume, but looking at this page, can you think of any other? Oh yeah, someone in the chat room already said it. Yeah, this email address right here. Wouldn't that be a great place to put an anchor tag? And someone even said you could use the mail to link. So anything that starts with mail to : will automatically open up someone's email program on their phone or their computer. It works out quite nicely. So yeah, definitely put anchor tags down there. I think you could put anchor tags in a couple other sections. Where else would you put some anchor tags? Yeah, phone. So if you have your contact info and your email address, you can put links in here. And actually, there's a special way in our textbook. I think if you, how do you do it? Do you start, I always have to Google it. Let's say anchor tag for phone number. Open up the good Googles today. There you go. Apparently, if you start an anchor tag with TEL : and then the phone number, that will actually make it so if you tap on that on a phone, it will launch the phone app and try to call that number. And if you have something like Skype installed inside of Google Chrome or Google Voice, I think it will prompt you to make a call with that. So I think you could definitely put mail to or telephone links inside of there. One other place that I think anchor tags would be perfect. And for the sake of time, wouldn't it be nice if in your education or your experience, the names of those places that you worked or that you went to school were links and clickable? I think that would be nice. So what could that look like? Well, let's say you have an H2 for education. I have seen people then use the H3 to represent Mid-Michigan College and then list information underneath here about their program. So maybe you're a CIS or Computer Information Systems. And you might find other ways to style that with like the M or the strong tag. Like you could maybe even say degree : Computer Information Systems. And then if you had if you want to list your high school, you could do that as an H3 as well, and it's forming a nice outline. And then what you could do is wrap these in anchor tags. So you could actually link to midmich.edu around the name Mid-Michigan College. And then that would be a clickable link to our college website. And if you wanted that link to open up a new tab or new window, I think that our book introduced the target attribute. You can actually auto-complete this with Atom. So we're saying target blank, and that will open up a brand new blank tab or blank window, so that they don't actually leave your resume. That's still up in a tab, but then a new tab takes you to the Mid-Michigan College website. Is that enough to help get you started with your resume? Making sure that you have this type of information and then you come up with ways to use these tags. I promise you I haven't gone over all the tags. If you go look at the assignment, there are quite a few other possibilities. I've seen block quotes for testimonials, these horizontal rules, the HR tag to add lines between each of the sections potentially, abbreviations if you wanted to put MMC. Well, I guess we're not MMCC. If you had an abbreviation on there, you could surround that in the ABBR tags. There's all sorts of tags to make things strong, to make a nav or a header or footer section. There's these actual section tags. If you wanted to have a section for education and a section for experience, you could actually surround those with the section tags. Oh, someone's asking if I would take a screenshot of... I will take a screenshot of this Atom page. It is not going to be pretty. This is definitely not enough to turn in, for sure. Hopefully it'll get some thoughts going. What I'm going to do is actually copy... I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. No, that'll do. Let's copy this to Visual Studio. And I think there's a way that I can just paste this in the slideshow for today. So what I'm going to do is grab this slide, drag a copy of it down here. We'll get rid of that. Paste. How do I say please make your own? Some sample tags in action to inspire you. We'll go with that. Shrink this down a little bit. It almost fits. Okay, I hope that that is enough to get you started. Okay, so there's just one more topic that I wanted to maybe show you. Are there any questions about resumes before I transition to the photo gallery project? Okay, so as the last part of this live stream, I wanted to talk about, not this page, it was this one, the photo gallery challenge. So one of our favorite websites at our college to find stock photography that we can use in flyers or banners is this wonderful site called Unsplash. And I'll just read it off the webpage. It's beautiful free photos. They are gifted by the world's most generous community of photographers. They are free to use. The photographers have given up their rights for them, so you can download them, you can adjust them and put them in your projects. You do not have to cite them, although as you download the images, they will say it would be nice for you to cite these images. For this photo gallery project that you're submitting in the class, I don't think you need to necessarily cite every image. For something like your final project or even your resume, if you decide to use an image, I think it might be wise for you to put a citation or a thank you note as to whoever took the photo with a link to the Unsplash site where you got it from. But it is just amazing. So if we just search for something like college, look at the images that come up, all related to education that we could use. We'll take this wonderful lecture hall. Probably makes you think about class like we're having tonight. If I wanted to use this, it's actually a very high resolution image. You can click download free, and it bounced down here. It's downloading. It's 5.3 megabytes. It is a huge photo. Absolutely huge. If I open that up in my downloads, you'll see that I can zoom in and see the scratches on the chair. It is just absolutely amazing. So I want you to use this resource to find some photos that fit a theme and build a photo gallery. And it's a lot like one of your final exercises in chapter 7. To build this simple photo gallery, we're not doing any fancy animations. We're just using HTML. I'm asking that you create a page that shows little small versions of your photos. And when you click on the image, it takes you to a different HTML page that has the full-sized image. And you're going to have to apply some techniques that you learn about in chapter 7 to set a width and a height for these images. That doesn't stretch them out. You don't have to worry about resizing the images with Photoshop or anything like that. There is a chapter that we will go over much later in the semester that talks about preparing big images like this for a web page. But since this is just a sample project, download the photos. I think I specify in Moodle how many you need. You need to have 5 images. So I just downloaded, I downloaded this one of chairs. You are then going to create a total of 6 HTML pages, 1 for each image, that's the big version, and then 1 index page that has the little small thumbnails. So let's talk about how I would go about doing this. On my desktop here, I'm going to make a folder called Brandon Gallery. And inside of here, you might want to make a subfolder called Photos or Images or what have you. And you'll want to download and put all of your images inside of this subfolder. Now, what's really cool about Atom is you can actually open up an entire folder as like a little project. So I'm just dragging this down to Atom. There's actually a way that you can go to File and open a folder or add a project folder. I don't need to do that though because I used the power of drag and drop. And when I opened up that folder, you'll see that I see my subfolder of photos, but then I can actually just click on the Brandon Gallery folder, and if I right click or control click on the Mac, I can then create a new file, and I'm going to make a page called chair.html. So because I called it chair.html, it automatically changed the mode to HTML. And that means I can use the cool autocomplete inside of Atom. And I can make a cool little chair page. It has an H1. And then I can add an image. And what image might I want to reference? Well, let's see if this works. Can I add a link? No, I thought maybe I'd be able to drag and drop the file name here. I am going to want to reference this though. So it's in the Photos folder. And then it's Nathan Dumlau 572047 unsplash.jpg. And I could call this Chairs in a Lecture Hall. All right. Very simple page, chair.html. Let's go back to that folder and open up chair.html. It didn't work. What did I do wrong, everybody? I'm guessing I typed his name in wrong. So let's rename, copy that whole folder name and paste it in here. I mixed up my A and O. See? I do things like that all the time. I saved my changes. Oh, wow. Look at how high resolution that image is. So this is where you're going to have to figure out how to add some important attributes like width. And I'm just going to set that to, let's say, 600. And when I refresh, you'll see that that shrunk it down. Now, if you want, you can specify the height too. The problem that I see is if you specify a height and you actually don't know what the right aspect ratio is, you might not specify a proper height. And I made this image square, but you'll see that now suddenly the chairs are really squished. So that's not highly recommended. The way I'd recommend working around that for now is just specifying a width. And then the browser is going to make sure that when it sets the width, it picks a reasonable height. So that's an example of one of the pages. If you wanted to put a link, thank you, Nathan, for this photo. See, visit on Unsplash. If I wanted to make this be a hyperlink, I could type that in here. Go back to my Unsplash page where I got it from. Paste that in. And then when I refresh my page, you'll see that I've got this little Unsplash link where people can go look at his awesome photography. So I made one page. You would have to do that for a few other images. And you need to put them all together on one index page. So I'm going to right click on my gallery folder and make an index.html page. Make my photo gallery. And this is where you'll need to figure out how to embed all the images again, but make them clickable hyperlinks. So that is going to use the A tag. And inside of each A tag, you're going to want to use that image tag again. You're probably going to want to have a page title. And the link that you want to establish is to your pages with the full resolution photos, so share.html. I think I still have in my clipboard. No, that's not the right item. Let's take that URL and paste it in there. I might still, actually I probably could have just gone to my share.html and copied this whole image code over. And the only thing that I'll really want to change is the width. Maybe I want to make it a bit smaller. So now I have an index page. It has a link to the chair page. Maybe on the chair page, it would be nice to add a link back to the home page. But for now, let's actually just open up our index page, and I got this small little image. It loads, I click on it, and it takes me to the chair page. I am not expecting you to make a fancy looking image gallery. It can be as plain as this. I want to see you demonstrate the anchor tag, successfully linking to other files, whether they're in folders or not. Linking to external sites would be a good demonstration, like I linked to Unsplash. Actually including the image tag and setting those attributes is important. Someone in the chat room asked if they can use their own photos. That is totally cool. That would be awesome to see your own photos. You're going to essentially build this in a single folder. I have this Brandon gallery, and then make a zip file, compress it like you have been doing your other projects. And my fingers are crossed that this will be able to be uploaded to Moodle. As I realize how big these images are, each one is going to be like 5 meg. I think the upload limit in Moodle is maybe 20 megabytes. I might have to raise that limit, or I've had students upload to Google Drive and then submit the link to Google Drive in the assignment. So that would work as well. I'll double check on the upload size limit after class tonight. So that is a demonstration of what I'm looking for your photo gallery. You want to make it your own, add your name, add some other information. Are there any other questions about the resume or the photo gallery or linking or images? We had a fun-filled night. I think I hit everything that I wanted to talk about. Someone's saying that they're sure they'll have other questions. That's fine. Definitely leverage the Slack chat room. I've had a few students reach out to me one-on-one in Slack, which is cool. You can definitely ask me one-on-one questions. But if you are brave enough to just post in the Web 1 2018 fall channel, I will answer you when I can. Other students may share their experiences. And I'm happy to say that there is a new tutor available. I think his name is Neil. He said he'd be watching Twitch tonight. He jumped into our chat room recently, and I think he was chatting with a few people. He is available if you want to contact the LLS. but he's also has access to our chat room because he's a former web design student as well. So welcome, Neil, everyone. I don't think there are any other questions. I'm going to end the stream so that this recording can be posted tomorrow. Thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing the photo galleries that you put together and reading your resumes. The content is really the most important part. Demonstrating the HTML tags is important. What I will tell you as a little hint is we're probably going to take that resume very soon, in a couple weeks, and try to make it look even better. So focus on the HTML tags and the content this week, and we will come back to that project again later in the semester. Thank you for joining and watching this recording, and I will see you again soon.